It is the holiday season, and the disrespect needs to stop for one of, if not the greatest player to ever lace up the cleats in any sport ever, and that is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I've been seeing a lot of posts on social media trying to discredit his accomplishments, and I'm here to tell you right now, the disrespect needs to be stopped. I've heard them say, oh, well, if there wasn't the foggy night, he'd just be flipping burgers at McDonald's. Well, the fact of the matter is, there was a foggy night, and they don't know the full story. They don't know how hard this kid grinded to get to where he was, and the fact that he was able to stick in that position. I mean, he was just a kid down in the farm system. Mind you, there are dozens of reindeers in the farm system that Santa has just in case one of his guys get hurt, so he can go in for a spot start. If Blitzen goes down with an injury, you got Fred coming up behind. He is a quad A player at a bare minimum who is ready to go in any situation. He is a major league caliber player. Rudolph was there beating out those other reindeer. He was known to be extremely talented, coming from a reliable source. This is from Sam the Snowman. Other holiday mascots, other holiday characters were trying to scope him out, were trying to get him. The Tooth Fairy reportedly had a huge trade, including multiple first-round picks, just for a chance to get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer on her roster. But the fact of the matter is that Santa believed so much that he was willing to keep such a talented player in the farm system when he knew that there was opportunity to trade in big on this legendary prospect. But Rudolph said to one of his best friends down in the farm system, he said, hey, here's the deal. I don't know when I'm going to get in, but once Santa puts me into play, he's never taken me off the sled. He knew that he had to be ready at any time. The fact of the matter is, some of these minor leaguers, they slack off. They get big, they start eating a little bit unhealthy. That was not the case with Rudolph. He kept himself fit. He kept himself slim. He was ready to go at any shot. And then all of a sudden, what do you know? It was a foggy day. It was a foggy night out. And who was ready to go? It was Rudolph. Santa said, hey, we need you for your specialty. He was only supposed to be a one-day player. That is what people forget. He was only supposed to play for one night. But he had the most legendary rookie performance of all time. The stats that he had put up had never been recreated by any player, let alone a rookie. And no one has been able to recreate them since. That's why he deserved a spot on the roster. And the fact of the matter is, he did what no other reindeer could do in that given situation. Blitzen, he didn't have a little nose that could light up. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, none of these guys, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, none of these guys could do what Rudolph did, and that's the point that I'm trying to make right now. That's like saying, oh, well, what if Steph Curry couldn't shoot? That is what makes Steph Curry, is the fact that he can shoot. What if Michael Jordan didn't have the killer instinct that he'd had? That is what makes Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan. That is exactly why Rudolph is the greatest reindeer to ever do it, bar none, and it's not even close, quite frankly. And conventional wisdom at the time, which is what I think people really forget, is that it was an 8-man roster. That was the ideal scenario. People thought you couldn't add more speed once you got past that 8. It was a diminishing return. You'd be losing value if you add another reindeer because of the added weight. The added speed of an added reindeer wouldn't be enough to over account for that added weight. But the fact that Rudolph was so talented that he needed to be put on that 9-man roster. Other people, I know from a reliable source, the Easter Bunny was out here saying he was calling Santa a fool because he was thinking about adding a 9th player to the rotation. It was unfathomable at the time, but the fact of the matter is it needed to be done, and the sleigh has never been faster since. And I know a lot of people, they want to say, what about Comet's legendary 86 season? I don't care about Comet's legendary 86 season. We know that it was an incredible season. We know that that's the reason that he's still on the roster. If we're being 100% honest here, which I'm sure that we all perfectly are, that is the reason that he will be going into the Hall of Fame as a first-round pick, even though the numbers do not back it up. He had a legendary season. We can all respect that he had a legendary season, but the fall-off was monumental. That is one of the reasons that Rudolph had to pick up the slack, because other veteran players weren't carrying their weight anymore. And we also know that other players like Dasher, like Dancer, were actively trying to keep Rudolph off of the sleigh. They thought that they would lose their jobs because of this new star player coming in. They thought that they were going to have other players come in because they had other tricks up their sleeve. But the fact of the matter is that Rudolph isn't a one-trick pony. Yes, he has the nose, and the nose is what he is known for, obviously. It is an incredible feature, but like I said, it's like Steph Curry with his shooting. Steph Curry is known for his shooting. Obviously, that is what makes him Steph Curry. This is what makes Rudolph Rudolph. But the fact is that Steph Curry is so much more than just a shooter. He can still pass the ball. He knows how to win games. He can get steals. That is who Steph Curry is completely. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Yes, he has a red nose. We all know that. That is what makes him Rudolph. But the fact of the matter is, he has the speed, he has the longevity, he has the stamina to keep going under any given circumstance. That's what makes him an all-encompassing GOAT reindeer that people just simply don't need to understand. And I don't need to understand that they need to understand that they just don't understand. There is so much more behind the story of Rudolph that people just don't comprehend. You know how hard it is to get onto Santa's sleigh. We all know that it is basically an impossible task. That is like looking at a child and saying, yes, you are going to be one of the 10 greatest baseball players of all time. You only have 9 reindeer, and like I said, at that point, it was only 8. So the fact that Rudolph persisted and he believed in that dream, he wasn't deterred by the fact that he was stuck in the minor leagues for as long as he was. And also, let's not forget, when he got called up to the big leagues, the Christmas spirit was at an all-time low. They needed something to revitalize the spirit. They needed to sell jerseys, if we're being 100% honest. Media coverage had fallen off. People were starting to believe that Santa wasn't even real. That's how bad the level of Christmas spirit got. But Rudolph brought it all back together. They would see a red light going across. They'd be like, oh my gosh, is it a bird? It's a plane. No, it's Rudolph. Because that's who he is, because he's the GOAT. That's what I'm trying to get through people's heads, that he is the greatest player to ever do it. Not only for what he did on the court, in the sky, but because of his cultural impact. You look at the Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird rivalry. That is what revitalized the NBA, and then Michael Jordan took it to the next level. Michael Jordan is what Rudolph is to the NBA, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like all these other guys, we know that the Vixen and Blitzen, like the competition is really what helped spark the whole entire, like, oh, these reindeer are like the real deal. But the fact of the matter is that Rudolph took it to that next step. He made it a global game that people just didn't seem to comprehend at the time. That is how important Rudolph is. So the fact that I see, oh, he'd just be flipping burgers at McDonald's is patently absurd, and those people just need to get off the internet for just a day, especially on Christmas Day. Take a look in the sky, and when you see the sleigh going by, you will see Rudolph in the front of that sleigh, pulling his weight, pulling more than his weight. He is easily the greatest reindeer of all time, and that is all I gotta say. Thanks for watching.